It's your time for Chai with Nanice. Get ready for substance, clarity, change, and especially empowerment. Get ready to turn over stones, uncover stories, and get to the heart of the matter in every area of your life. Any mood runs, any emotion flies, and your dreams are within your grasp. There are no limits or boundaries, and your comfort zone is out of reach, yet it's the safest place you will ever be. Come in, sit down, and have some chai with Nanice.
Welcome to Chai with Nanice. I'm Nanice. Today's show is about Judgment Day. But not just any Judgment Day. Your Judgment Day. And I don't mean the Judgment Day that comes at the end of your life, or so we've been told. I mean today, yesterday, and every day. Let's face it, most of us spend a good deal of our time and energy judging ourselves and others. So today, we're going to talk about judgment. We're going to talk about what judgment really is and how to get rid of it once and for all. If, in fact, it is something to get rid of, we'll see. My beautiful guest today is my amazing daughter-in-law, April, who is a healer in her own right and also carrying my grandchild, which I'm very excited about, so I'm announcing that to all you. She's expecting in December, and that's been an incredible journey for her. I'm sure she'll share much about that as well. And so without further ado, let's talk about judgment, April. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you. As always, love being on your show.
Yeah. So this concept of judgment, we've all experienced it. I mean, I grew up in a family that was all about judgment, but judgment was never seen as a bad thing. Judgment was a good thing because judgment kept you doing the right thing, kept you, not hurting other people, not hurting yourself. It kept you controlled and hopefully living, well, what they would consider back then, but this is, a few decades ago, living a good life. And I learned to judge. I learned to judge through my parents, who were not judgmental people, but they still judged. I learned to judge through a Catholic school that I went through, too. I learned to judge through friends and society. And I grew up, even by the time I was a teenager, I was a very good judger. I was an expert at that, and I hadn't even realized that. Hindsight, I look back and I see that so much of the pain that I experienced as a child and as a teenager and a young adult and well into my adulthood came from judgment. And I look at it now because the idea of judging myself or judging someone else seems so foreign to me. It disappears. It's almost like it doesn't even exist in my reality. And having said that, I definitely see that it still does exist in reality, and I was inspired to do a show on this very topic so that we can explore it and expose it for the little thief it is. So what are your initial thoughts about judgment?
And if you would have asked me that last week, you would have gotten a completely different answer.
Of course.
But judgment for me is, I would just look at, certain people should be judged. That's what I previously thought.
They should be judged?
Yeah.
So you were judging them that they should be judged. Okay.
Right.
I love that.
But I didn't realize I was doing that. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of unconsciously. But, it's just like the bad people.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to what you said. You try to keep yourself safe. How do you protect yourself? Different things like that. And it just really began to see how it just really separated me.
Yeah.
And so that's what I have to say is that the judgment is I thought I wasn't judging anyone, but then I just realized.
Right. My mom is a really good example. She's 80-something years old. Don't tell her I told you. And she's a sweetheart, and I love her dearly. And many of you have known we've had a challenging relationship up until this last year. And her entire life, she would say that she was not judging anybody, that she was not a judgmental person. But it was so intrinsic in the way she was brought up and in her personality that she didn't even know it or see it. And so I witnessed it as a child. So I got myself disentangled from that judgment. And it took me many, many more years to understand that I still had judgment, but I didn't even realize it was judgment.
Yeah.
It's like a process, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. And I can see it can be really hard to pinpoint.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty extreme. If I take it to extreme levels, I'm going to take it to the most extreme now, and the most extreme of not judging. And this is not a necessarily suggestion for anybody listening, but about a year or so ago, I had an extremely spiritual experience and a very deep meditation. I actually had the experience of leaving what I would consider my life and just witnessing it from above. And it wasn't a near-death experience per se, but it was at the same time, because this is very similar to what many people experience when they do have physical non-death experiences. My experience was looking down on my life and just being totally neutral about it and rising up and up and up and getting to the place where I looked at my life. I looked at a life of, the most ideal life I could possibly imagine and the most pristine life. And I just got to this place of just figuring out, okay, if I could have any life, the best life possible, what would it be? And then I thought about the worst life possible and what would that be? And, the worst life possible was just being on the streets, tortured, freezing. I hate to freeze. I hate to be cold. And, the story went on from there. And from this perspective, I looked at both lives, this most pristine, glorious life and this most agonizing life. And I had the most amazing experience, April, because from that perspective, I had no preference. I had no preference. There was no difference. They were equally as beautiful, equally as abundant, equally as glorious, and equally as precious. And I just stayed in that place, in that space for quite a while of just knowing deep inside me that there really is no preference. There really isn't anything better than anything else. It's us in the human form that have choices and preferences and discernments and all that. But from a perspective of God or God presence or whatever you would like to call it, higher power, use your own words, there really is no difference. It's the same thing. And when I brought that back to my life, I was a little bit shocked to know that, to experience that, because I had never before imagined that living on the streets in a hellish life and living, on a yacht in the south of France or wherever you live on yachts is the same thing. And I just allowed that to process in my life, and it's taken me to this place where, yes, I still have preference. Obviously, I have preferences, and I realize that that's not a bad thing, that's like really a gift to me in my life because it allows me to choose. And having said that, at the same time, I know that there's no difference. And so I can walk along the streets of San Francisco or New York or recently Denver and sit and talk and be with my worst imagination of living on the streets and just be present with that and with that person and just love them so dearly because I know there's no difference. Yeah. So it's not about feeling sorry for someone. It's not about judging them. It's not about judging them and trying not to judge them, which I did in the past. It's about just really, really understanding there's no difference.
One thing I'd like to share, and this is something that I've been thinking about for the past few days. So a few times on the show I've expressed that I've gone to this Lady Brian Katie school. Yes. And I talk about it a lot just because it was the changing point for me. That's when everything changed around for me, and basically my old self died, and I was reborn. So it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. Well, anyway, she has this 10-day school that she does, and it's basically what it is reprogramming your thinking of, and it just changes everything that you believe, all your thoughts process. It really questions who you are. Right. And in doing so, you see you're not really who you think you are. Right. When you take everything away, your personality, everything, your identity, everything that you think that makes you, and if you no longer have that, it really questions to your soul, well, who am I then? Right. So I was at the school, and one of the activities she had us do was write down what was one of the most horrific things that we ever did in our lives. And one man got up there, and he actually sexually abused his sister. Mm-hmm. And expressed that to the whole group. Now, I watched the shock and the from everyone there. Right. judging him on how could he do that to his little sister? How could he strip that from her?
Yeah.
And as I'm watching him express his story, I saw something different.
What's that?
I saw his pain. I saw the judgment he's been holding in himself for that very thought. How could I possibly do this to my sister? How could I bring this pain? And he has lived with that every day of his life. And not only does he have that, he has the judgment of everyone that he expresses what happens to his story. He gets that ickiness.
Like the people who are listening to him.
Right.
Yes.
And so he gets that even more so. And I was watching this, and I'm shocked at myself because I'm personally been sexually abused.
Yeah.
And
not by him, though. By somebody
not
else.
by him. But being able to, and one thing Katie had someone do, she asked if someone wanted to come up and pretend like he was the perpetrator, and they got to voice anything that they wanted to. So one lady went up there, and she just started screaming and yelling and hollering at him and just really getting all of her emotion. And I watched two things happen.
Yeah.
One, I just really just felt for him in a way of sense of I've never felt before. I could see his pain. I could see the judgment. I could see how he just wanted to completely take it back. And it was looking in that woman's eyes, it was his sister. There was no difference.
Yeah.
That was his sister voicing how she felt that to him. And I got his sister wasn't able to voice to her brother what it had done to her.
Yes.
And this woman played that role for him.
Yeah.
And I watched how he forgave himself. It was gone.
How did he forgive himself?
I think her being able to express what it had done.
That he had faced it.
Yeah, he had faced it.
He had faced the worst, and the worst was going to his sister or somebody that represented his sister and allowing himself to be vulnerable to that truth. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to us now, and they've been abused in one way or the other, and they're thinking, how can I possibly see the person who hurt me, or the person who hurt my child, or the person who hurt somebody I love dearly as innocent? And that's the point. We really all are innocent. Many of you have maybe heard me talk about what I call the dream, and it's on my website. If you go to my homepage at nanice.com and scroll all the way down, you'll see the dream. And what the dream is about, it's a metaphor for our lives, and the dream goes something like this. One night, a man was having a sleeping dream about his neighbor, and his neighbor came to his house and slashed his tires and graffitied his house and did all these awful things and killed his animals, and in the dream, that man was very angry at his neighbor and blamed his neighbor for all these things that he did. But when that man woke up, he thought it was quite silly that he was so angry at his neighbor, because he knew that it was just a dream, and in fact, he was the dreamer, and his neighbor was innocent in his own bed. Next night, same dream. And also in this dream, the man did not remember that he was the dreamer of the dream and decided to get revenge on the neighbor who had done these horrific things to him in his home. So he went next door and killed the neighbor. And at that moment, woke up from the dream thinking, that's interesting. I just killed my neighbor in my dream because I blamed him for doing all these horrific things. But I know that was just a dream. Third night has the same dream. But this time, in the dream, when he discovers that his neighbor's done all these horrific things, he remembers that he is not only dreaming, but he is the dreamer of the dream, and that anything that his neighbor has done to him in the dream is of his creation, and his neighbor is innocent. He wakes up, and he remembers that his neighbor is innocent, and suddenly there's a knock at the door. And the man opens the door, and there, it's his neighbor. and his neighbor says to him, "Hey, bud, wake up, you're still dreaming." And I love that story. It was a metaphor that it was channeled through me several months ago. And I love that story because it's really true. Because if somebody does something to us, and I know this is hard for a lot of people to believe, and I know that it's really hard to be in this place of accepting or even thinking about what I consider to be a higher truth, but it is what will set you free. As long as you believe that someone else is doing something to you, as long as you believe that you're a victim, you will be. You have no power to change it. But as soon as you wake up to the realization and knowing that no one can do anything to you, it's only you doing it to you, that's when you're free and can change things. What we see in our lives is simply a projection of what's going on in our subconscious minds. Of course, we don't know what's going on in our subconscious minds. We're not keyed in that way to look inside and know. However, our subconscious minds are a projector that reveal themselves onto the projector screen, which is called our life. By living our life and looking at our life and listening and understanding our lives, we get to understand what's going on in our subconscious mind. And instead of blaming our neighbors or the perpetrators for doing something to us, we get to say, wait, somehow this is what I'm doing to myself on some level inside of me. And this person is representing exactly what is happening in my subconscious mind. So if your neighbor does something horrific to you or your house or your animals, or if you have been violently abused in any way, it's a gift to know that in some way this is what you've been doing to yourself. And once that understanding takes place, there's no victimhood. Nothing's been done to you. And you get to take control back for your own life. You get to be powerful and create exactly what you want. There's nothing happening out there. It's all happening inside of us and projecting itself out onto the screen of our life. Having said that, life, as we all know, seems very, very real. And having been someone who has gone through horrific abuse myself, I know that in the midst of it, and even for many, many, many years after of it, it sure seems like something's happened to you. But the way out is through power. The way out is through consciousness. The way out is through reclaiming your life. And the only way that you can do that is by waking up to the realization that your life is simply portraying what you are believing on a subconscious level. Now, April, I know that it took you a long time to get to that place. And I think you're still working on it in some ways, because I catch you every so often. For all our listeners who are in this place of, like, I can't believe that, I'm not a victim, or I can't believe no one did anything to me, or how could you possibly say, and by the way, all you people who are feeling that way, thank you for still listening. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And, of course, you can reject anything, or you could accept anything, or any portion of anything. It's up to you. What would you say? What would you say to those people that are in that space right now?
Actually, I was in that space for a very, very long time. And it was shocking for me. I mean, it's scary to think that at least for me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure for
everyone.
Yeah.
But what would scare me the most is it was just like, I allowed it to happen. I just couldn't even, for a while, even go there.
Right. And allowed is not the right word.
Yeah.
Because allowed, that takes you on a whole new scenery, so I'm sorry for correcting you. But it's not allowed. It's created. Mm-hmm. It's manifested, which I know some people are going, oh no. Because whatever happens, so it's like the sleeping dream again. Whatever happens in the sleeping dream, you're the dreamer of your dream. So you can't go blaming anybody else for doing anything to you in your dream. You're doing it. It's your projection. Life is the same exact process. So it's not, you don't like have a dream that someone's attacked you and you say, oh, in my dream I allowed someone. It's really, I created a dream when someone attacked me. Yeah. Now I can choose a different dream. I'm sorry for correcting you, but that was important. Go ahead, please continue.
But that's just what I would get to, is just why would I do that? And I just kept going back into my victimization of the pain, especially for me, was my mother, and I always wanted her to love me. I mean, it was like I couldn't even feel anything because I wanted that so badly that took precedence over anything else. So healing all of that, it was mother's love became higher to me. And so no matter what she did to me, it was like I could not find any anger or anything for her because I wanted her love so badly. And so looking at all the abuse and everything, it was hard for me to see that because all I could see was her.
So I think what you're saying is this, and please correct me, that the most important thing for you at that point, which was a very long period of many, many years, was to have your mother's love. And so you could not even look at the possibility that you created the abuse through subconscious thoughts and beliefs that maybe you came into this life with, or many other reasons. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yeah. So when you first started thinking about this concept of I'm the creator of my reality, and everybody out there, this is what it means to be the creator of your reality. I know that we hear that a lot with The Secret and all these manifestation courses that are out there now. When you understand that you're the creator of your reality, that doesn't just mean that you get to wake up and create your reality for today. That means that you have always created your reality and always will. And that's the power in it. So when you first started thinking about this concept that you are the creator of your reality, and that means that you're also the creator of the abuse, what did you do with that? Where did you fit that?
Where I started to fit it is I just saw the thoughts that I was thinking. I started to see that I was in this great family, great home, and lots of love.
When you moved in with us.
Right.
Yeah.
And been there for years.
Yeah.
And I saw that I really had everything that I wanted in life, just not realizing it. And that's when I was able to turn everything around, because I was able to see, wow, I have all of this in my life, but yet I feel abandoned, I feel neglected, I feel all of these victimization. Where is that?
Yeah.
And I looked at it, well, no one was abusing me anymore.
Right.
I wasn't living with my mother anymore.
Right.
And then for a while, I wasn't even speaking to my mother for over a year. So there was nothing coming from her.
Yeah.
But yet, I still felt like I was. And then I looked at it and I said, well, wow, it's me.
Because so there was nothing coming from the outside, but yet you were still feeling like a victim and powerless, and you're looking at your life, and life's saying just the opposite, so you couldn't blame life anymore, so you had to say, oh, it's me. And I'm going to guess that when you finally got to this place of saying, oh, it's me, that it translated to not only being you for that moment, but it translated to it being you always. Like, it's always me. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Wow. That's powerful.
It was.
Yeah. For me, it took me many years to really get that I was the creator of everything in my life. And as many of you know, when I was 16, 17, I was horrifically abused and pushed out of moving cars and thrown through shower glass doors and suffocated and strangled and all that stuff. And I'm only saying it now just so that you have an understanding that this is an experience that I went through in the past. And for a long time afterwards, during it and afterwards, I felt like I was a victim. Something was done to me. It wasn't fair. I wasn't safe. Life wasn't fair, all that. And as I regained my power, as I discovered who I really was, it started transforming into, oh, that was a great thing that happened to me, because it set me on my path of, wanting to help others and discovering self-esteem and making some really good choices for myself. And that was really good. But at some point, I realized that was only part of the truth. And then it transformed into, not only did nothing happen to me, but I created that because somewhere in my unconscious mind, I had beliefs that I was a victim, that I was worthless, that, I should be beat and nearly killed. I should be killed. And it was my beliefs that played out on the screen of my life. And yes, even at 16 and 17 and at any age, and we'll talk a little bit more about that too, because I know that's a question in a lot of people's minds. And, as a transformation through my life, I finally got to the place of, if I really am the creator of my life that I choose to be, that must mean that I created that too. And if that's true, how and why? And I don't know if I still understand the how and why. I don't know if I'll understand that in the context of this lifetime. In this lifetime, it might happen, after this lifetime. I don't know. But what appears to me now is that I created that because I had issues. I came in this life with issues of self-worth, and that was the best way for me to get over it. So it's kind of like this. So we think back on these awful things that happen in our lives, but they're really gifts in disguise. They're all gifts in disguise. If we let's look at an example of a relationship, and you can do this with a job or living conditions or anything you want. So everything's, things are not so great, but you're tolerating them. You're tolerating them, and there's no reason to change because they're okay. You get along every day, and every day's fine, and nothing to really complain about. And it stays the same. Well, if things never escalate and get any worse, what you will discover is that you will live your whole life like that, just tolerating it. And that's not what life was meant to do. That's not why you came here. You didn't come here just to, tolerate life. You came here to live your life fully, whatever that might mean for you. And so when things escalate or relationships get really abusive, as in my case, and as in April's case in different ways, however, there gets to be a point where you can't tolerate it anymore. It's done. There's no way that you could tolerate it anymore. And for me, I knew that if I was going to live, that I had to get out. And for a while there, I had chosen not to live. I was passively suicidal, hoping, one of those times, one of those days, you would kill me, and it was very likely. But something clicked in me. There was a series of unexpected events. Something clicked in me, and I got just a little inkling of self-esteem. And in that instant, I decided, yes, I want to live. And at that moment, made different choices. And the true choice was, I want to live so much that I'm willing to die. And that meant that I was going to get out of that relationship, no matter what it took. And I did. And I almost died, but I didn't. But if it had not escalated to the point where it was unbearable, I probably would have stayed in that relationship for years, hoping that I would die. And I see this with anybody, even milder relationships. People are in, just relationships that don't work, and they're tolerating them. But then things get worse and worse and worse. Something happens. Find out your spouse has cheated on you or lied to you or neglected you in just a way that's unacceptable. And it's at that point that you make a change. And the same is true with jobs and living circumstances and whatever you could possibly think of. And so when these crises actually do occur in our lives, they are the biggest gifts that we can possibly receive and hopefully accept, because it's what catapults us into the change. It's what catapults us into a new belief system. And so if my low self-worth or no self-worth created the abuse in my life, which I'm quite sure it did, then that experience pushed me to the limit so that I had to make a different choice. And I did. And this is why we keep having repeating relationships, the same thing over and over again, because we really haven't made a different choice yet. And the choice is not in our partners, the choice is in who we are inside and what we tell ourselves and what we choose to believe and what reality, what story we choose to think into creation. And so the idea, the concept that I am the creator of all of my life is the most empowering concept that I can possibly hold on to. Because that means that if I created everything in order to receive certain lessons and to understand whatever it is I so much desire to understand, and in my case with that relationship it was self-worth, then that means that I can create anything that I want. So it's like we keep trying to create things, manifest things, and it doesn't seem to be working, because first we need to accept where we are. First we need to accept that not only can we create what we want, we've created everything we didn't want too. And that's the power. That's the power.
Oh.
Yeah. So we had a conversation in the kitchen the other day, and you were talking about, your visions for creating, centers and groups for women who are survivors and thrivers of abuse. And we got to this place in the conversation where I said something to you like, do you remember exactly what I said to you? Am I putting you on the spot?
I don't remember exactly, but I know where it led me to.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the place that I was at is, first of all, I can go back a little bit.
Please.
The past few nights I've been having dreams, and these dreams have been pretty horrific nightmares. And what they've been is basically powerlessness of someone grabbing me. Kind of different situations, but always the same. Someone grabbing me. I can't scream. I can't do anything. I can't protect myself. I'm stuck.
Right.
And in these dreams, I've never been so scared in my whole life. I've never had that kind of fear.
Yeah.
And waking up and just in shock, knowing this is how women that are raped or grabbed or kidnapped, that's what it really feels like. I actually experienced that. And I actually experienced, because before having that judgment, why don't you scream? Do something.
Right.
Fight. Do something.
Right. So you were judging the people, the women who didn't scream.
Right. And then having the experience in the dream, you're so scared.
Yeah.
You're thinking, I need to scream, but you can't. You have no voice. You can't find it.
Right.
You can't think to fight. You can't do anything. You're just so scared. And I was looking at this place. How do you help these women that might be in these possible situations? That, because it just was so horrific for me to experience that. And one thing that we talked about is how we really do choose what's in our life, and someone can hear, well, why would I choose something like that? And I personally look at myself because I've been through the horrific abuse. Well, why would I choose that? Well, my answer to myself is the person I am, the strength, what I want to do in my life. I really want to be the voice. I want to help people rediscover who they really are. Mm-hmm. And my main thing was worthiness, and I really wanted to learn that in this life. And and in order to really, really learn that and understand that, I had to go through it all.
Right.
And so I chose not to experience just one or two things. I chose to experience all of it, so I could really grasp it. And what I realized, there was just pieces still that I just didn't quite get because they weren't quite in my experience of women that have attacks and different things. And these dreams gave me that scene of what it feels like. And so it was judgment of seeing it was, oh my God, I got to protect these women against other people. Right. And what it came down to is I saw there is no separation. Right. There's just yourself. Yeah. And how you feel about yourself and the thoughts we tell ourselves. And that creates who we are. Right.
That creates our reality.
That creates our reality and what we do and what we do with our lives. And so I was able to see you can't do, there is no them and us. Right. There is just who we are. Right. And that's what matters. Yeah. So and the biggest thing that we talked about was you want to change the world, you change you.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can do. So to say, oh, I want to help women or I want to help any group, that's really perpetuates the problem. And this is a very, very hard thing to put into words, but I'm going to try. So as soon as you see them against us, or wrong and right, what you're doing is you're feeding into exact problem, which is why people send me things, join my cause for breast cancer, join my cause for this, join my cause for that. And I never join causes because I don't want to feed into that energy of that. What I choose to do is see everybody as whole and perfect, and so they are. And that's really the secret to healing. So when we look at, that if just in this instance, because this is what we're talking about today, and this could be absolutely anything, this is just an example, that, that men have perpetrated women in rape and domestic violence, and it can happen the other way too, we know as well, that, the men are bad and the women are good, and let's save the women. But this is not the truth. This perpetuates the problem that if rape or if any kind of abuse is going on out into the world or in your life, it's because there's a subconscious program inside of you that's creating it. And just like in a nighttime dream, your life is the screen and showing you exactly what's going on in your subconscious mind. And so for us just to make, someone bad and, someone, a survivor, what we're really doing is perpetuating their story, that something can happen to them, that there's something to survive from. There's nothing to survive from. And no one can do anything to you and nothing can happen to you. And so to exemplify this point, there was scissors on the kitchen counter when April and I were in the kitchen talking about this, and I pulled out the scissors with my right hand, and I went through this beautiful pantomime act, or at least I thought it was, because I used to be a theater major, and I pretended that my right hand was stabbing my left hand, and my left hand was, trying to get away, and the right hand was stabbing, and this whole big scene until I fell to the floor, and April thought I was completely ridiculous, and I'm just glad I didn't fall on scissors. But anyway, that's the point. If your left hand is the victim of your right hand, you don't make your right hand wrong, because you are the consciousness of both hands that are interacting as victim and perpetrator. And so from a higher consciousness, that's exactly what's going on, that you are both hands. You are the victim and you are the perpetrator. And you are the perpetrator and you are the victim. And you are the perpetrator of yourself and you are the victim of yourself. And it's all one. So there's not anything happening out there. So instead of, trying to help people survive and even thrive past abuse, a greater truth is to really just uncover who they really are and the power and strength of who they really are. And once you know who you really are, you realize that there's no harm that's ever been done to you or can ever do to you. It's kind of like that nighttime dream again. You have this awful nighttime dream that something's happened to you, like you had these past few nights, and you wake up, and when you wake up, you realize nothing's happened to you.
Right.
You're safe and secure. It was a dream that this person that did something to you, you were the dreamer of that person as well as the dreamer of you in the dream. And this is as close to what I would consider a higher consciousness of reality as we can probably understand at this time, or at least that's true for me. I'm sure there is a higher consciousness because every day it exposes itself to be seen. And so this concept that we really are all one, it's true. It's not just a concept. We are all one. We are one. Nothing's happening out there. Nothing. It's all happening inside of you. And if you can take total responsibility for everything that's happening in your life, and I do mean everything, then you have the power to make different choices through the stories that you tell yourself and the beliefs that you hold on to. And I'll tell you right here, and you've heard me say it many times, all beliefs are false. There is no such thing as a true belief. Knowing that, we do need beliefs in order to create the reality in which we live. Create your new, more enjoyable reality by choosing consciously only those beliefs, and those beliefs that create those stories which support that which you truly want. This is the power of creation. This is the power that we have to change our lives, and in such doing, change the world we live in. It's that simple. Isn't it, April?
Yeah. That's beautifully said, but it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I think is really amazing is that so many people are listening. They're listening. And I don't just mean listening, on the internet or however they're listening. I mean, they're listening. I know that this beautiful new world that we all dream of, it already exists as a reality. I have been shown that So much of what we feared happening in the destruction of the planet and the destruction of the people of the planet, we've averted because we're waking up to this greater truth that we really are creating our worlds through our subconscious. And if we have created them and are creating them, then we can create something else. And that's beautiful. Yeah. So I have to tell you a story.
Okay.
And it's a story about when I first really understood my own judgment. So it was many years ago, and I thought I was non-judgmental. People would say to me, "You're the most non-judgmental person I ever met. You're so unconditionally loving." And everybody would say this to me, and I believed it was true about myself. And one day, we had just moved out to Utah, and my younger kids were, maybe a year and under 3. So they were really, Clay, yeah, he was about a year, and Travis was under 3. And I used to, as you know, I used to love to go to garage sales, and I would often just, let them come out. I would pull them out of the car seat, and I would car seats, and I would carry the baby, and Travis hold his hand, and we'd look at garage, and they would, look for things. And Clay was a little bit young, but So one day I pulled up to this garage sale, and I could see that it was just like they only had a couple things out. So I decided that I would just jump out of the car. The car was right there. Look really quick and jump back in the car. So I jumped out of the car. The kids they're awake playing. They're fine, right? And I realized that the garage sale was really in the garage because it was kind of like a rainy-ish day. So I walked into the garage, and there was this man, and he was yelling and screaming at this woman. And in my mind, I thought, abuser. And he stormed in the house. Well, seconds later, a woman who was just outside the garage started screaming, "There's a car rolling down the block!" Immediately, I knew it was my car with my babies in it, and it was on a hill, and I freaked out, and I started running, and I had high heels on, and I started running from my car, but there was no way the car was really going, and I was scared like I had never been scared before, and I prayed and prayed. I don't know who or what I was praying to, but I was praying. Suddenly, the man, the abuser, he came running out of the house. He must have been a marathon runner. He went running down the block. Somehow he swung my car door open. He jumped in my car. He put on the brakes. He pulled up the emergency brake. He stopped the car. He jumped out of the car and ran back in the house. Oh. I got in my car. My kids are laughing. They thought that was the funniest experience they ever had. I sat in the car holding on to the steering wheel, shaking for about 20 minutes. The abuser? He just saved my kids. He just saved my kid's life. He just saved my life. The universe is right kind to me that day. The universe showed me very clearly where I was still judging. I sure cleaned that one up in a hurry. I invite you, whoever's listening now, to maybe start looking at your life in a different way and maybe start noticing where you might still be judging just a little bit because you think it's the right thing to do, or you think that it's necessary, or you think that you need to in order to protect yourself. I invite you to start looking in all those little hidden ways of how you might still be using judgment to keep you safe, when in fact it might be the very thing that's keeping you from becoming your greatest, most powerful self. Yeah, judgment, we needed it for a while. It helped us survive. But that time is gone. We're in a new time now. Judgment doesn't work anymore. And now I know, whenever I'm confused, that there's only one real truth, for me at least, and that is, only love is real. And when I know that only love is real, all the other details seem to take care of themselves. April, you've been through so much in your life, and I've watched you, and I've grown, and I've learned from your challenges and your triumphs. And no matter where you are, you're always willing to look further inside to see a greater truth, a higher truth. And I admire you for your courage and your strength. That's not an easy thing to do. And there's a lot of people listening to us today. And they want to learn from you. They want to learn from your courage and your strength. And if you could share one last thing with them. About how to help them have courage in uncovering greater truths themselves, what would that be?
For me, I would say that one thing would be really looking inside yourself. One thing, actually, go back. This is what I would suggest.
Yeah.
Spend a couple of days with no identity. And when I mean no identity, I mean nothing. I even got to the point, no name. Did no credit cards for a couple of days. Nothing. No makeup. Nothing that kept me as a personality or as even a person. But to just be completely that raw, that's when you really look at who you are, who you really are. And you'll find it's the simplest thing, which, love.
Yeah.
Love. Start there. That's where I started.
And that's where you ended.
That's where I ended.
April. That's right. Love. Only love is real. Wherever your path has taken you and wherever it will take you, I promise that if there's a final destination, it will be in the arms of love. And what you'll discover is yourself looking back at you. All this time that you may have dealt with challenges and grief and all sorts of things, the truth underneath it all has always been love. And I don't mean the love that has entangled us in crises and problems and possession and entanglement. Not that love. I mean the love that is us. I mean the love that we are created from. I mean the love that we get to create from. This is the love that you are. And when you know that only love is real, not only is there nothing to judge, but there's everything to love. And you are that. You are that in which you love. You are love. Please visit me on my website at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com, nanice.com. And there you'll find a doorway to awakening. It is not a place for, marketing or selling things like so many websites. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's not. But it is a place for your awakening. It's been designed as such. Go to the home page, read through the home page, then go to articles, shows, and more. Listen to old shows that have been archived on Chai with Nanice. Read the articles. Read the article about finding love in all the right places, or the upside of depression, the permanent cure for depression. Or read the article about always being right. There are tons of articles about inspiration and spirituality. There are some quizzes. There are all sorts of things that will inspire you and motivate you to live the life that you came here to live and to discover who you really are and your divine purpose. This is what I have created for you. And I want to hear from you. I want to know what your experience is. I want to know your transformation. I want to know your questions. I want you to call in and ask me questions online and on the website and on Chai and be present. Because this is not about anybody except you, whoever you are. I could feel your energy because we really all are one. And the last thought I want to leave you with is that the earth has a beautiful chakra in the center of her being, and it is her heart. This is the chakra of the earth, the heart chakra. And we are all connected there as divinely, oneness. So no matter what you do or where you go or what you believe or what has happened on the screen called your life, know that you are connected to one and all, and you are connected to Mother Earth herself through her heart chakra. And as you do, know she loves you. And I love you too. You have been listening to Chai with Nanice. Till next week. Bye for now.
Thank you for having Chai with Nanice. Please go to www.nanice.com for great free stuff that will empower you to live your best possible life. Free books, articles, shows, meditation audios, and so much more at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com. Nanice's books are also available in all major bookstores and Amazon. Check out The Infinite Power of You, Even Gandhi Got Hungry and Buddha Got Mad, Zest Point, Lip Prints, and many others by Nanice Ellis. To find out about one-on-one coaching and how Nanice can personally coach you to experience your best life possible, please email mybestlife@nanice.com.